Okay, now that we have learned about how to FOIL, there's something called factoring a polynomial, or as we've been calling it at school, reverse foiling. Either will do in this case. Essentially what I want you to do now, as we saw in our last video, what we did is we took these two brackets, we took something with two brackets, and we got a trinomial. Now I want you to take a trinomial and give me back these two brackets. What two brackets, what numbers and variables would I need in there to give me this trinomial? That's what we're going to do. I kind of refer to these as math puzzles because that's essentially what they are. So whenever you see a trinomial like this and we're going to tell you to factor it, well, I see that it's an x squared. That tells me right away that I know I'm going to have two brackets. So I'm going to put those in right away because I see this x squared that tells me two brackets. Because how do I get x squared? Well, I get that by multiplying two x's together. X times x, right? So I know those are going to be my first things that I put in there, okay? Now, the next thing I notice is that in this case, both of my symbols are positive. That tells me that down here, both my symbols are also going to be positive. So I can add those next. Now comes the tricky part. I have to find the constant in both these binomials now to figure out what is going to go here that will add to become my coefficient and multiply to become my constant. So it can be a little tricky, but this is where the math game kind of comes in. So what I like to do is start right here with my constant. I like to take my constant and I like to factor it out, meaning what two numbers can be multiplied to equal 6. Well, right off the bat, we know that any number multiplied by 1 is always going to be equal to itself, and the opposite is true as well. Those are different sets. So 6 times 1 is going to equal 6, and 1 times 6 is going to equal 6. What else do we know can be multiplied to equal 6? In this case, it's 2 times 3, or 3 times 2. Either of those will equal 6. So I know that it can be any of these sets of numbers. It could be this one, or this one, or this one. It can be any of them. But this is how I'm going to know which set to use. Because it has, whatever number set I pick, has to add or subtract to equal 5. And in this case, I know it has to add because, again, both my numbers are positive. So I know it has to add to equal 5. So now I'm going to go across and add all these number sets and see which one will work. Well, right off the bat, I see that 6, if I was to add these, 6 plus 1 would be 7. 1 plus 6 is also 7. But 2 plus 3, oh, that gives me a 5, and 3 plus 2 also gives me a 5. So I know it can be either one of these two because that is my 5, just like I'm looking for. So now I've found a set of numbers, 2 and 3, that when multiplied equal 6, and when added equal 5, which is exactly what I'm looking for. And because when adding, as we saw down here, 2 plus 3 or 3 plus 2, when you're adding, you get the same number either way, so it really doesn't matter which order I put them into my brackets. I can pick whatever order makes sense. Now I have my brackets. I have x plus 2 multiplied to x plus 3. The last step, whenever you're factoring or reverse foiling, is to actually FOIL then your answer and to double check it that way. So I can see that I have an x times an x gives me x squared, x times 3 gives me 3x, 2 times x gives me 2x, and 2 times 3 gives me 6. Again, I have to add these two together to give me 5x plus 6. This answer matches this answer that I started with, so that I know my brackets were indeed correct because I got the right one. Okay, let's try this again, maybe with a slightly more complicated time this time. First off, I note off right off the bat that in this case I have a positive and a negative. So I know that that's going to mean a few different things for me. But I also see I have an x squared again, so that tells me two brackets, because I know an x times an x is going to give me an x squared, so I'm going to put those in there. And I'm not quite sure what symbols I'm going to need because I see I have a positive and negative, so I'll hold off on those for now. But again, let's start with the constant. That's always a good place to start. Let's factor the constant and see what sets of numbers multiply to give you 24. So again, we know whenever you're dealing with numbers, a number times 1 is always going to give you that same number back. We could also know with 24, 12 times 2 will give you 24. Another thing that will give you 24 is 6 times 4, or 8 times 3. So you can see we have quite a few more options in this case that factor out to give you 24. But we need them to add to 10 or subtract to 10. We got to figure it out. So let's see. 24 plus 1 gives you 25, right? Let's just do all the addition one first. 12 plus 2 gives you 14. 6 plus 4 gives you 10, okay? And 8 plus 3 gives you, 8 plus 3, of course, will give you 11. So the only one so far that looks like it's gonna work is this 6 plus 4. Let's see if we can make it work, because we gotta remember our symbols. So 6 times 4 is 24, but we need a negative. We need a negative 24, and this is a positive 24. So how can we make it a negative 24? Well, we could make one of these numbers negative. So let's try that. Let's give ourselves a negative 6 times 4. Well, that gives us a negative 24, but now we have to add this pair. Let's see, negative 6 plus 4. Uh-oh, that gives me a negative 2. Well, that's not 10, so that's not going to work. Let's try it the other way around. 6 times negative 4. Well, that gives me a negative 24 again, so we're on a good track. Let's try 6 plus, right? Or I guess I could say in this case 6 minus then negative 4, because 6 plus negative is going to be minus, so 6 minus 4. Uh-oh, that's just a 2. Okay, so we know that 6 and 4, that's actually not going to work for us, because we can't make it work with getting our negative 24. So let's try a different pair. This time we added, to get all these numbers, we added. Let's try subtracting now. So 24 minus 1 would be 23. 12 minus 2, oh, that would give us 10. And 8 minus 3 will give us 5. So let's focus on this pair now, because I see that if I minus 2 from 12, I can get a 10. But again, I got to get that negative 24, because I know 12 times 2 would be 24, but it's not negative. So I got to make one of them a negative. Let's try the 12 first. Negative 12 times 2 equals negative 24, so that's on the right track. Now let's try adding them together. Negative 12 plus 2 equals 10. Okay, that would work. And just for fun, let's see if it would work the other way. We have our 12 times our negative 2. That would give us our negative 24. And if we have 12 minus 2, well, that also gives us our 10. So we just have to make sure one of these numbers is negative in this case. Let's go with our first one that we did. Let's do our negative 12. And then we have to add our positive 2. And let's, again, whenever you are answering a factor question like this, your last step should always, always, always be to then FOIL your answer and double check it. So let's do that real quick. X times x gives us x squared. X times 2 gives us positive 2x. We have negative 12x. By multiplying those, and our negative 12 times 2 gives us negative 24. And when we combine those two, we have x squared, and 2x minus 12x is, negative 10x minus 24. So here we're running into a problem. This is why it's critical to double check your answers, because sometimes it actually is really, really important, the order in which you put them in. So let's switch this up then. Let's switch this up and try again. And let's make our 2 the negative and our 12 the positive. See what happens. So we have x times x gives us our x squared. Our x times 2 gives us our positive 12x. Our negative 2x becomes negative 2x. Negative 2 times 12 gives us our negative 24. Okay, so now we have x squared, and a positive 12x minus 2x gives us negative 10x, positive 10x minus 24. And that matches, so we know that we did it right. So that just goes to show that it's critical to pay attention to not only your symbols, but also which order they come in. If you have any questions, you know where to find us.